Hello! Just quickly, before we start this video, I need to show you all something very, very important. You see that? 76.2% of you are not subscribed at this point to the CT Dingo YouTube channel. So, it would mean a lot to me if you could all quickly subscribe, because we're in a very big dry patch. Please. For this dog. Please. Thanks. Also, just another quick point before we start this video. For the lower years, like 2011 to maybe 2014, my reviews won't be as accurate, mainly because I wasn't a huge NRL fan back then, and I wasn't really watching as much NRL, or the grand finals really in general. So I apologize if some of these ratings are off. It's either because I didn't really watch them, or I didn't really watch them. NRL Grand Finals. Easily the biggest game of the year. Two teams fighting it off for the Provan Summons Trophy. By far the most prized possession in the NRL to date. Although one team is left with glory and a moment to remember, which is probably their most exciting moment of their life, while the other team is left like a sad Ben Hunt, who dropped the ball in the most crucial moment of the game. Sorry, Ben. Now, it's safe to say over the last decade there's been some very good grand finals and some not very good grand finals. So today, we're going to be ranking every NRL grand final in the last decade out of 10. Let's get to it. The first game we're going to look at was the 2011 NRL Grand Final between the Manly Seagulls and the New Zealand Warriors, which saw the Manly Seagulls take away the win 24 points to 10. The first points in this game came from a penalty goal in the 27th minute from James Maloney, which gave the Warriors 2 points. But unfortunately for New Zealand, that was the only points they'd score in the first half. The Seagulls got 2 tries after that, one in the 29th minute from Brett Stewart, and one in the 39th minute from Cherry Evans. They led at half-time 12 points to 2, and unfortunately for the Warriors, the second half didn't get much better for them, and Manly ran circles around them. The second half ended in a 12-8 result to Manly, giving Manly the win by 14 points. Overall, the game wasn't terrible, and I haven't watched the full game in its entirety, but I think it was a bit of a meh game. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't fantastic. Overall, I'll give the game a 6 out of 10. Now we move on to the 2012 Grand Final between the Melbourne Storm and the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. The Bulldogs had a very good year that year, finishing first with 18 wins and 6 losses, just in front of the Melbourne Storm side, who finished with 17 wins and 7 losses. Both teams got round 1 finals victories and made it all the way to the end, winning their preliminary finals as well. The game started with an early try from the Melbourne Storm's Ryan Hoffman. However, it wasn't converted by Cameron Smith, giving the Storm a 4-0 lead. Next points came from the Bulldogs, who also couldn't convert, so scores were level. Melbourne would snag 2 later tries and 10 points, having 1 try converted by Cameron Smith, and the halftime score was 14 points to 4. Funnily enough, in the second half, there were no points scored for both teams, giving Melbourne the win by 10 points. I assume the second half was quite boring. I also haven't seen this game, but I'm going to give it, from what I've seen in highlights and stuff, a 5 out of 10. I think there could have been more points, but for now, it was an okay final. Now we move on to the 2013 Grand Final between the Sydney Roosters and the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. First points came to Manly's George Tafua in the 8th minute. However, the try was not converted by Jamie Lyon, although they did back it up with a penalty goal just 8 minutes later. The Roosters followed up with a try from Daniel Tupou and a penalty goal from James Maloney in the 31st minute, and the Roosters had a 2-point lead at half-time. Although Manly came out firing in the second half, and in 8 minutes scored 12 points, giving them a 10-point lead, which was very strong at that time. However, that did not stop the Roosters, and they would go on to score 3 more converted tries in the game to take the win by 8 points. There were a few controversial tries and calls nonetheless in this game, which does dock a few points off its score. However, it was still a good game nonetheless, in my opinion, so I'd give the game a solid 6 out of 10. I think there could have been more points and maybe more fairness. In a way, I might be biased because I'm a Manly fan. Once again, I haven't watched this full game, so I don't know exactly, but I guess it's a solid game and a good win for the Roosters. The 2014 Grand Final. Probably the first grand final I watched in its entirety live. The game started with a first up tackle that hit Sam Burgess so hard that it broke his cheekbone, which was a surprising moment for a lot of NRL fans. Once again, the game started slow, and it was only South Sydney up by 6 at half-time. The Bulldogs answered back with a Tony Williams try early in the second half to level the score, but South Sydney ran away from it there, getting 24 unanswered points and winning the game. Although this game was a blowout, it was still an enjoyable game to watch as a young fan. I can't exactly remember it once again. Wow, I know I'm very annoying. But overall, I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. Watching the cool moments in this game, like Greg Inglis's final try, and some of the crazy moments like the bounce back for Arvar in the 72nd minute, gave this game a few more points, and for me, it is an 8 out of 10, and so far the best grand final on this list. The 2015 grand final. Where do we start? Although I have a question. Would this game be as memorable as it is if it weren't for the finish at the end? I don't think so. This game has become one of the most popular NRL grand finals of all time, and in a lot of people's top 10 favourites. In fact, probably even a lot of people's number 1. And it's because of the finish of this game. The Cowboys were down by 4 points, with full-time looming, but it was Jonathan Thurston and his Cowboys magic that got them over the line in the 80th minute. It was down to a Jonathan Thurston conversion to win them the game, which was his strong point. It was curling back, but unfortunately hit the post in the last second, which meant it went to golden point. A strong kickoff from the Cowboys forced Ben Hunt to drop the ball just 10 metres out from their own line, giving the Cowboys a strong chance to take a field goal, in which Jonathan Thurston did to win the Cowboys the game. This is one of the most exciting moments, in fact probably is the most exciting moment in NRL Grand Final history, which is why this game gets a 9 out of 10 for the exciting moments at the very end of the game, which makes it very memorable and special. Now I move on to the 2016 Grand Final between the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks and the Melbourne Storm. The Sharks were on a very long 49-year drought without a Grand Final win in their books, but it was their time. 2016 was their year, with a huge win streak that got them into almost first place, but a nice comfy top 4 spot in third, just being overtaken by the Raiders in the last minute on the ladder. The grand final was a close one throughout, and the Sharks had a strong first half, leading 8-0 to begin with. Although the Storm answered back with 2 converted tries in the second half to take the lead, but it was Andrew Fifita in the 68th minute that gave the Sharks the lead back by 2. The Sharkies were lucky enough to hang on for the final 12 minutes of the game, giving them their first grand final win. I give this match an 8 out of 10. It was a very exciting game to watch, even though I was a neutral fan. I was still going for the Sharks to break the drought. The closeness of the match gave it a few more points and made it very exciting to watch, even if you were a neutral. Now we move on to the 2017 Grand Final between the Melbourne Storm and the North Queensland Cowboys. The Cowboys finished 8th on the ladder that year, and were never expected to make it as far as they did, although the game didn't start off so well for them. Sean Fensom went down injured, and Josh Adokar ran the length of the field to start off the game for the Storm, giving them first points. The Storm would then go on to an 18-0 early lead over the Cowboys at half-time, although the Cowboys were able to answer back in the 47th minute with Tamare Martin to score to make it 18-6, which gave a little bit of hope for any Cowboys fans, although the Melbourne Storm managed to still run away with it, scoring 16 unanswered points after that, giving them a solid 34 points to 6 win over the Cowboys. Overall, as a neutral, this game wasn't that enjoyable to watch as it was a landslide victory for the Melbourne Storm. If this game had been closer, I would have given it a higher score, but for now, I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 10. I would just wish it was a little closer and better. 2018 saw the Sydney Roosters take on the Melbourne Storm, in which the Roosters had a very dominant first half performance, leading 18-0 at half-time. Everyone was sat scratching their heads, wondering if the Roosters were going to overtake the 40-0 grand final record. However, the Storm fought back in the second half, winning it, in fact, 6 points to 3, which is one of the weirdest second half scorelines I think I've ever seen. The Storm, though, just weren't good enough for a very strong Roosters side who weren't just strong in that game, but were strong all year round. The game wasn't too enjoyable to watch as a neutral once again. I honestly just couldn't really find it that much to like. If I had to point out one thing I did enjoy, it would be how much the crowd was into it. I think that really made the game somewhat enjoyable, but overall, I'll give the game a 6 out of 10. I just wish there was a little more into the game or about the game, but still a decent grand final. 2019 held one of the most controversial grand finals of all time, and it's because of what you can see on screen right there. 6 again. 2 words that filled the media after this match. Ben Cummins, who was the referee on the night, got mistaken and accidentally waved a call of 6 again, which was quickly changed back to just a regular last tackle call, which the Raiders though didn't realise, so they took the tackle, hoping they would have more. Unfortunately, this was very confusing, and the Raiders ended up losing the ball after that. Although what made this worse was that the Roosters would run upfield and score a try right off the back of it. A lot of people were furious with this call and were actually sending threats to Ben Cummins, who had to lock himself down and fly away to another country. Overall, I enjoyed the game quite a lot, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Even though it was controversial, it was still a fun game to watch, although unfortunately for the Roosters, their win is overtaken by that 6 again call, and more people unfortunately remember that call over the win for the Roosters, but hey, you've still got 2018 to enjoy, I guess. The final matchup on this list sees the Melbourne Storm taking on the Penrith Panthers. In my opinion, this was quite a good game, but Melbourne ran away with it in the first half, leading 22-0 going into the sheds. It all looked lost for Penrith, as Melbourne scored again with Ryan Papenhuyzen early in the second half to lead 26-0. People were on edge, wondering if Melbourne would overtake the 40-0 record, just like the Roosters might have in 2018, although once again, the side that was down managed to find a way. Penrith scored 20 points in the final 20 minutes of this game. It was crazy, although it just wasn't enough for Penrith, and Melbourne got the win in a panic play at the end for Penrith. Felix Kaufusi caught the ball, which would win Melbourne this match. It was a very exciting game, and I was on the edge of my seat for the whole game. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it was very exciting and very fun to watch. And honestly, I was shocked, because when it was 26-0, it just looked like it was going nowhere. It was quite a boring game, but Penrith brought it back, so props to Penrith, even though they were very disappointed. It's that amazing season, finishing first with only 1 loss, but somehow, someway, Melbourne pulled it off over the strongest Penrith side I think I've ever seen. So congrats to Melbourne for the win. NRL Grand Finals are always the most exciting game to watch, and I'm really looking forward to see who's going to make it in 2021. At the moment, I think it's going to be South Sydney, just because of how strong their squad is, especially just after signing Josh Mansour, but we'll see. Hopefully they don't crumble under the pressure and hype, just like Parramatta did last year. Out of this list, my favourite one to watch, even though I gave 2015 a 9, which was the highest score, it was either 2020 or 2016, just because of how close they were and the exciting finishes. Thank you all so much for watching this video. What do you think? Let me know your ratings of every grand final down below. And remember, that 23.8% needs to go a lot higher, because imagine how many subs this channel could be at right now. So let's get that number high. Be that person to change it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.